baby hoes, baby hookers, baby strippers. I'm sure most of us have heard these terms used before. In particular, baby stripper, I feel like this is used all the time, particularly on YouTube. And I'm sure when we hear these terms, we imagine a newbie stripper, like her first night in the club, struggling to walk in her heels, learning how to do her first stage set, being taught how to hustle, how to do a lap dance. I'm sure that's what we picture when we hear baby stripper. And probably something similar for like baby hoe. We think, you know, first couple months on the job, particularly like your first night working in a brothel, maybe being taught how to do an intro, that kind of thing, right? We picture a newbie on the job, first couple weeks, first couple months maybe. But why is it that within the sex work community, these terms are thrown at newbie workers for months and months and years after coming into the industry? This seems to be a common thing with veteran workers in particular. And when I say veteran workers, we normally give that term to like workers who've been here for the long haul, like lifers, you know, who've been doing this 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 20 years, all right? And it seems to be mostly these workers throwing these terms around. And I want to discuss why I find them quite harmful and asking the community, when is it that you guys stop calling people baby hoes? Let's get into it. And I'm gonna try my best not to get too heated in this video. What other job in any other industry do you work where you get referred to as a newbie, or I guess a lot nastier term than newbie, a baby, for months and years into your career? When you start at, say, a new IT office, you may be the office newbie for 3, maybe 6 months. I feel like that might be a reasonable amount of time to be considered the newbie. Why is it that people still throw terms like baby hoe at myself after 3 years as a full service worker and a year and a half as a stripper, not including all the time sugaring and camming and everything like that before this? This is something that I personally encounter a lot less as time goes on. It does still get thrown out here and there. But I mostly want to make this video to defend those that are like a year and a half in and are still having this being used whenever they have an opinion on something. It's like, shush baby hoe, you can't talk about anything. You're a baby, you don't know what you're doing. And just minimizing and dismissing someone else's knowledge or experience because they are not a veteran worker. What I want to ask is, if you guys insist on using these terms, which I really dislike the use of these terms in general, especially in the manner that they're being used in the community at the moment to silence, shush, and ignore other workers and exclude them from the community. When are you drawing that line on when someone is no longer a baby hooker, a baby stripper? Because in my mind, about 6 months is probably realistically when those terms should be sort of out the door. They know what they're doing, okay? The kitty cat, it's been taken for a ride around town now, okay? We are not baby hoes anymore. And why is it that veteran workers insist on using these terms? Why is this constantly something brought up whenever they are in an argument with a worker who is newer to the industry than them? I personally believe that veteran workers are using these terms to bully, belittle, isolate newbie workers, to dismiss their experiences, maybe in an attempt to make themselves feel better because they are now, whether it be actually aging out of the industry, because there are a lot of older workers who are very successful in this industry. I believe it's more they haven't kept up with the times in terms of their marketing, putting in the same level of effort that newbie workers are, using social media or their websites and things like that, just expecting the work to just come to them. And because it no longer does in today's society and in this current economic crisis that we're in, they watch these newbie workers like myself starting to succeed and overtake them in terms of income and bookings and things like that. And the only way that they can make themselves feel better about that is calling them a baby hoe or a baby hooker or a baby stripper. I strongly believe that these terms are being used within the community so that veterans feel some sort of power over anybody who's a new entrant into the industry. As horrible as it probably is to say, a lot of these workers are no longer keeping up with the state of the industry. Like anything, like any other job, times have changed and people are now using social media or doing interviews, podcasts, anything like that in order to get more work. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do that, but it seems to be those that are choosing to step more into the spotlight that it's constantly baby hoe, baby stripper. And I remember this term being thrown at me when I was a dancer, right? When I danced, and I don't know the state of the, the stripper industry right now, this is 3 years ago when I was, well, actually 4 years ago when I first walked back into the club, okay? And when I say back in, I did do one night when I was like 19. We're not gonna consider that here. I walked into that club as fresh meat, and most girls were coming and going within 3 months. The retention rate on dancers was very, very low. So if you're considering the average person lasts 3 months in the industry, okay, why was I still being called a baby stripper a year and a half in? I always thought that was weird. I was like, at this point, I'm pretty well down packed in what I'm doing, my hustle, I make good money. Why am I still considered a baby stripper? Because you don't like the way that I hustle? You don't like the way that I get my bag? That's considered baby stripper to you? Or is it that you are intimidated? Don't know. Now, when we're coming for full service workers, hookers, HOEs, whatever you want to call us, like myself, what I currently do, it's insane to me to consider myself a baby hoe. I've been doing this for 2.5 to 3 years. It's pretty much 3 years now, okay? That's taking out the time I was retired. In what job would somebody else still be considered a newbie after 3 years of growing their business, 3 years of experience? And a variety of experiences, touring, brothel work, and everything before that, camming, selling used underwear, like OnlyFans, you know what I mean? It's insane. Something that I see a lot is these veteran workers who they don't use social media themselves, or they use it very minimally and don't get a whole lot of views, attacking newbie workers, or baby hoes as they like to call us, because they don't agree with something we are saying. They have a different view on it. They think sex work's not dangerous, so they're going to attack us directly or indirectly about that content, or say they don't agree with the money counts. So they all start chiming up about, how you're going to get robbed because you're doing money counts. Honey, I did money counts for a year, 6 months, something like that. I have never been robbed. Okay, the one story that's coming out on this channel of a client trying to rob back his money, that was way before I was brand new in the industry. There was no money counts anywhere, okay? Maybe they disagree with answers to Q&As, which is perfectly fine. It is okay that we don't all have the same opinion. There are plenty of things that I have opinions about that other people disagree with. That's perfectly fine. But using the terms like baby hoe to minimize and say they're instantly wrong because they're a baby hoe, even though they may have done hours and hours of research into that topic or have lived experiences that give them that impression that that's the answer to that question because of what they have personally been through, just makes no fucking sense. I do understand getting on workers for sharing screening information. I completely align with this. I have seen this happening within the community. New workers trying to use social media, they're getting questions being like, what is screening? What do you do for screening? And sharing that's completely dangerous to the industry. And I totally agree with calling that out and trying to educate that peer as to why that's not okay and how much danger she's putting everyone in. However, using that she's a baby hoe is only going to push her further and further away, and she's going to keep just doing whatever she wants. She's not going to feel like she's a part of the community if you're bullying and isolating her. About a year ago, I worked with an industry peer, so I was face to face with this person, and she told me to my face that I know absolutely nothing about the industry and should not be talking about my experiences online. At that point in time, I was 2 years into my full service career. I had been doing OnlyFans for about 2.5 years, 3 years, 2.5 years, I'd say, and danced for years before that, okay? Why is it that I know nothing? Just because you've been doing this longer doesn't mean that you know everything, okay? There are plenty of people in this industry who are veteran workers who I don't believe are as well educated on certain topics. That's my opinion and that's my belief. There are a lot of veteran workers who do not have a business mindset and don't know how to market. That's my opinion. That's my belief. Just because you've been doing it longer doesn't mean that the way you do it is the only way to do it, or my opinions on things or my lived experiences are invalid. To end this off, and I know that I've referred to these terms being thrown at myself a lot, but I do mean them in terms of like the entire industry. I want us to stop using this shit. It's just nasty. It's nasty. And I know I'm just one voice, and there'll be plenty of people who watch this and are like, why is she having a sook about that? She's such a baby hoe. I can feel it, right? I know that's gonna happen. But why are we bullying and isolating people within our community? Why are we doing that? To make ourselves feel bigger? To make ourselves feel better that we didn't make any money today? Why are we doing that? Why are we not just coming together as a community and working towards advocacy or, you know, finding common ground. Why are we isolating people? I personally find people using these terms in a way to silence, dismiss, ignore, attack other workers within the industry as a form of ugly fucking mug behavior, okay? You can disagree with what somebody says and you are most welcome to debate and argue and discuss any topic, okay? That is your right to do so. I'm not telling you that you can't. But saying that anything that they have to say is not important because they're a baby hoe and they're a newbie and they haven't been doing it as long as you is really fucked up. That's my opinion. That's my take on it. I hope you've enjoyed this little ramble, and I have 4 videos to film today, so I guess I'm on to the next. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and yeah, please stop fucking bullying other people. It's not nice.